I'm Chris Killian. We are still here at New York Comic Con, courtesy of Whatnot, and right now I have with me Dan Harmon, and we're going to talk about Krapopolis. Krapopolis? How do you say it? Give me the official.
Krapopolis.
Krapopolis. That's easy. I wanted to say Krapopol. I think I was dipping into like a Simpsons thing there.
I think that's fine. Krapopolis is also.
Krapopolis.
I mean, you say it however you want. It's a made-up word.
Sure, Krapopolis.
The important thing is that it'll be distinct in the Twitter algorithm.
Turn the B or the P into a B and just off to the races, whichever you want.
You don't want to name your show something like The or Community. It's not in a trending-driven universe.
Right. So also, they just announced that there's season 2 already. So you have to be pretty excited that nobody's even seen the first season, and they're already like, let's give it a second one.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've been wondering how bad I can make the season 1 finale. Now I know. It doesn't matter.
I mean, based off the clip that I've seen, I loved it. I can't wait for it to come out. You know, there's a lot of Greek mythology adaptations, but almost no comedies. I mean, I can think of like what, Disney Hercules, maybe, I don't know. But what is it about Greek mythology that you felt was like so ripe for just comedy?
I think it's the vastness of the universe. I mean, I grew up watching The Guiding Light with my mom. So the soap opera universe reminds me so much of Greek mythology, as well as what has become this kind of Marvel-dominated, the way that we deal in franchise and stuff. And it's like they were doing it first back in this age that didn't even have writing yet. And yet, some of these stories actually made it all the way to us in grade school, which I find so fascinating, because when you hear these stories, you don't necessarily go, oh, that's why that one nailed it.
Right.
You're kind of like, that was random. The guy's wife did it with a cow? What? And you're kind of like, oh, well, there must be something in a Jungian sense that's important about this, that people kept repeating it.
Right.
And so it's kind of just fun. Yeah, it feels like vandalism a little bit to betray the classics. It also feels like safety, because you're like, well, some people liked these stories in this setting.
Now, was there a particular Greek myth, or what was the easiest Greek myth that you thought, oh, comedy right away, you had just an instant idea of?
I mean, we don't actually, we deal with characters, like we don't end up like retelling the classic stories, but like you'll see a revisitation of the character Prometheus. Like when we meet him, he's still chained to a rock with an eagle eating his liver for eternity, which was his punishment in the story of him stealing fire. But he gets freed in our story, and we get to drill down into what his character is like. And so it's a lot of stuff like that, where there's Athena, the goddess, is a recurring character in the show, but in the world of our show, which is centered around this family headed by this matriarch Deliria, who's like a black sheep Olympian god, Athena is sort of like the bratty kind of like almost like a privileged kind of Barbie type character that sorry Barbie fans, I don't mean to imply that I know they're trying to rehabilitate that. Barbie's great, she's super edgy and she's a woman of the people. But I just mean like she's kind of like a mean girl. That's a good reference. Like Athena's kind of a mean girl. Yeah. So it's like we take these characters and we just like give them roles within our universe.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, because I know the main cast is not really they're not well-known Greek mythology characters. They're made up, and so you are going to have lots of side characters that are the well-known characters coming in, the gods and the monsters, and so forth. Yeah,
and there's kind of ancillary. It's like there's a character named Daphne who's a wood nymph who lives in the forest that our lead character has a crush on. But Daphne, followers of Greek mythology might recognize that name as a wood nymph that was eventually stalked by Apollo and could only get away from him by turning into a laurel tree, I think, just to disguise herself. And I like to throw little things like that in there where you're like, is that the famous Daphne? But she's not part of our central team, but you're sort of like, I have a feeling that must be her. And if she's not a tree yet, then maybe that's going to happen to her at some point.
Also, I did want to tell you, congratulations on fulfilling the prophecy. So 6 seasons in a movie, it's happening. I was curious, is the script already finished?
No. we had like an outline thanks to Andrew Guest, who was a writer from the classic days of Community, wrote the Dungeons and Dragons episode, and he was instrumental in putting something together that we could take out to the streamers. And so there's an outline for a concept of the movie. We now don't necessarily have to stick with that. I mean, it'll, now that we have to like execute the script, it might change, but no script yet.
I get you. Well, I do want to bring this up too, because I'm a huge fan of Monster House. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. I think it's vastly underrated, and it's sort of become a cult classic over the years, I think. In some way, so has there ever been any discussion about doing a a spin-off or sequel of that, or do you think it's just left well enough alone?
I don't know. I really liked what Gil Kenan did with the design of that movie. I think that's why it's such a cult classic. I think that I'm personally proud of the first 25 pages of that script, and it's one of those scripts that I never really felt like was finished, and then it was like, we're making this, and that. But I thought that then Gil coming in, and I mean the design of those characters and that world and the house. He, as a person from Wisconsin who was, Rob Schraub and I were like, we were fueled by our memories of being a Midwestern kid around Halloween and stuff, and Gil created this world. Those characters were so well designed. Right. They have this wonderful weight to them and these beautiful expressive faces, and that world is so autumnal and creepy, and I would love to see a series set in that world. I think it could be really cool. Yeah, I agree. I love it. Dan, this was so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you guys for watching us. And make sure you keep it on Comicbook.com for the rest of your New York Comic Con coverage. It's the alliteration.